Good morning, everyone. Welcome. This is Angela Coulter and
Sarah Sieg Avagnoni.
bringing you this week's Ascended World. And, since we had a 3-day weekend since we talked, it was like before we got on, we're like, what were we talking about again?
I know it's been a lifetime. Each day's been a whole separate lifetime.
Oh, I know. It seemed like and it's weird because, usually we just go ahead and work on through. And it was like, wow, it seemed like having a 3-day weekend made it so long.
Right.
But it actually does, it does connect, because what we've been talking about, and we started talking about this last week, and our topic Monday, it sort of came up on creating differently, right? Creating, instead of creating from the mind, creating from the heart, creating from the feel of consciousness versus
or creating from a need.
Mm-hmm.
That I always remember when I was younger, probably not little, but younger, that what you have to do is you have to fill a need. You have to fill a need, and that's how you're successful, is you fill that need.
Right.
And it's like, if we come to that place of realizing that we already have everything, there are no needs to fill. So then it becomes that's when we got into the conversation about how, identifying with that passion and allowing that to just be, instead of saying, I save what I do from my passion for the weekends.
Right. Right.
Versus I allow that to drive everything that I do, that everything springs from that passion.
Yes.
That's wholly different. And I do think that there are some people who've identified that. And those are the people that are just wildly successful without blinking an eye.
On everything and everything, right?
Everything they touch.
Right. Right. And it's interesting because, and I think part of this came too, because I had having a conversation with my husband, who's very big on categorizing, compartmentalizing. Right. And we've had so many different things change in our relationship and in our household just in the past, 6 months. It just seems like we have so much and we're brimming, we're just overflowing with so many things. And a lot of them are things that we're passionate about, that we really enjoy. And then it's like, well, how do we fit these, and his whole thing is, well, I'm having a hard time fitting them into my compartments. And I'm like, well, stop putting them into compartments.
Right.
And it's like, we think, because the mind and the ego says, well, we've got to do this from 9 to 5. We've got to do this, blah, 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 blah. But when we, this goes into the allowing yourself to be infused with, it's like, instead of the thing itself, right? It's tapping into the feeling of how luscious and fulfilling and expansive it feels to be immersed in whatever that is, right?
Right.
And
it's fulfillment on a whole different level. It's that total whole fulfillment versus this satisfies the mind. This satisfies the ego. This satisfies, a need.
Right.
But it lays that groundwork that makes it applicable in everything.
Right. Right. And so the thing is, and a lot of times we start with, when we talk, right, is what allows you to live in passion? What allows you to feel passionate, or, what allows your heart to sing, or what allows you to live in your bliss? And the thing is to find, so here's what this is what we get stuck in, I think, is we find this one little thing or whatever, that where it's so easy, it feels natural, we feel in flow when we do it or feel it or be it or whatever. And then we think, okay, well, that's gonna have to nourish me so that I could do all these other things, instead of,
right,
this is here to remind me what it feels like when I allow myself to be that place, be that passion, be that bliss. And now I'm going to take that model in this thing,
yes,
and I'm going to allow it to bleed into everything else.
Right. Right.
And that's the thing. That's the trick. Instead of just saying, okay, I'm going to stop here because I found my thing. Right.
Right. Right.
And I remember it's funny because somebody that I had worked with a long time ago, I had helped this individual like get into what they were passionate about and follow that. And they started following that. And it started like and how they told me was, and it was funny because from the outside, it seemed like self-sabotage, right? And in a way it was because it was sabotaging all the things that were not held to that passion and bliss, right? So they started following, the pursuit of like, this is how I feel so vibrant. And how they explained it to me was, it's like when I do this is in vibrant, saturated color. And then everything else in my life is black and white. Right.
It's like you come alive.
Yes.
When you do that.
Yes.
And everything else is kind of like autopilot flatline.
Yes. And so what happened was then all of a sudden, and this is what happens, all this stuff is not enough. The black and white isn't enough anymore, right? Because it's like you've gotten a taste of remembering that luscious saturation, right?
Right.
And then so what happened was what they did things like that look self-sabotaging, but then they just went in the pursuit of, in the bigger picture, allowing all of that black and white stuff to start crumbling so that the color could come out in everything else. Like it's sort of like Wizard of Oz, right? Because the Wizard of Oz has black and white in the beginning,
right.
And then it goes into color.
Yeah.
And so it took, I would say this individual, I think it was a total of 3 to 5 years. And it was painful at parts because it was letting go of things the ego was attached to, but they committed to that because it was like, how I can't forget this. Like once I realize this and I taste it,
right,
I can't say I'm not going to do this anymore. Right. So then it's like, well, then instead of stomping that out, it's allowing it now to, how do I restructure everything to allow it to flow into everything I do?
Right? Absolutely. Right.
But this person today has a completely different life, has built it completely differently, and is like the happiest I have ever seen them. And because they just allowed this to be their life, which is, and you can tell because everything they do is golden now. Everything, no matter how they do it, what kind of business they do, it's just so funny
it's in that alignment.
Yep.
And it's in that alignment. And I mean, you can take that all the way back to their authenticity. They finally discovered that I just want to, it's like the spring of your authenticity, what feeds you. And by allowing that, I was looking up something for a friend on watering plants when they're on vacation. And it's like they had all their plants around this big tub of water, and then they had strings that went into each plant. And as the plant dried out, it would draw the water through the spring from the big tub of water, and it watered their plants while they were gone. And I was like, that's what this is finding that big tub of water and then making that connection with everything you do to allow it to feed it. And it's like, and it's like, I don't know, the plant may be one thing when it starts, but as it gets that source of that passion, it may change into something totally different, just like you were saying.
Yes.
And it's all perfection.
Yes. Yes. And it's just beautiful when we let go of what that could look like, because, and then you just start letting go and saying, well, you know what, it doesn't matter because I'm here in this place where I am so passionate about every breath I take, about how I'm living. And so when you start to so what happens is you start to let it speckle other things. Right. Because you're like, okay, and this is what I was talking to my husband about, is it's important for us to not compartmentalize this, because it's allowing ourselves to stay in this vibration where it's like, oh, this is the lusciousness. This is the fun and the excitement. Right. And so when you hold that, even when you do the most mundane things, then it starts to speckle it with that color, and that feeling.
And something that I was looking at this weekend is, we all seem so purpose driven, and so getting to this, achieving this, doing this, having this. And if we are living this way, you have your passion in every moment. And that every moment, it's that power of now, that presence of nowness, because you have it all right there.
You're not looking for anything. Yeah.
Right. You already have that passion right there. And it just, it takes away that striving and looking for the next. And it's just so, it brings such peace and presence and fulfillment in every moment.
Well, and it also changes our energy to striving to allowing, right?
Right. Which is totally different.
It is. And it's because you're already pulling from the well. You're already pulling from the pool. Right.
Right.
And that was what I kept on getting all weekend was, we'll just allow. Stop trying to do anything. Just allow it to happen. Allow yourself to do it. Allow yourself to have it done,
Right.
And then it was funny because, gosh, I don't know, yesterday I ended up spending 5 hours power washing, right? Which
that's so meditative.
It really is. It's funny because last night my husband's like, well, didn't you say you wanted to meditate today? I said, I got 5 hours of meditation in today. Are you kidding me?
My husband and I argue over who gets to power.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. That was us. Because I was like, I started, and he comes out and he's like, aren't you hungry? Don't you want to eat lunch?
Right. Because once you let go, he won't give it back. Right.
So I'm like, no, it's okay. And then I was like, all right, go ahead. And he was eating that. I was like, okay. So then he did it while I ate lunch. And then I went back. And then it was funny because after I was out there, I was like, don't you want to break? Don't you want to break? Don't you want to break? And then he did it for like,
you look
hour.
Tired.
Right. Yeah. I know both of us, because there's something so meditative and so satisfying about power washing.
Right. And, I usually have headphones on and it's just it's such a little world. And all you care about is that next little strip that you're going to power wash.
Yeah. And you're just watching it clear out.
I know. Right.
So satisfying.
I know. Yes. Very satisfying.
And so, and the
dirtier the spot, the better it is.
I know. Cause then you see, oh, look at that contrast.
Right. Look at how powerful I am.
I know. And so then what I was thinking, so what I'd be thinking is, and it's funny because I kept on thinking, oh, I should put my headphones on. And I was like, no, I just don't need it. I'm going to be in this. Right. And I'm like watching every strip, and every strip I'm seeing is stuff that we're peeling away in the collective, peeling away in the individual. And I was just like, I could feel that so cathartic. It was so cathartic. It was like,
right.
And then I'm like, okay, and I'm going to let this clear out, and it's going to be easy and not cantankerous anyway. It's not going to be, stressful in any way. It's just going to feel clear and squeaky clean and, bright. Right. And yeah. And it was fabulous. So I felt great. I took a bath last night, nice Epsom salt bath after. And then I was like, I could just sleep for a week now. Be happy.
Right.
But in that, the reason I bring that up is it also forces you to be so present, right? Because you're doing those one strip at a time kind of things, right?
Right.
And so in the beginning, you have to get yourself into that mode, like when you first start,
Mm-hmm.
And then it was finally, it's just, I hear this voice and it's like, just allow, just be present. And then it's like, you just sort of sink into it.
Yeah. It's that allowing.
Yeah.
It's that allowing. And along with that, trust.
Mm-hmm.
And trust that's where the nourishment is. Yeah. Versus achieving X or doing Y or all of that.
Yeah. And then it was funny because when I finished, I did our deck and the patio underneath, and that was 5 hours, and the siding as well, and whatever on that side of the house. And I wanted to do the pathway and the patio, the big patio, like, cause you get started and it's like, oh, I just want to do this.
Like, oh, it never ends. Right.
And I was like, I want to do the front porch too and the front walk. It was funny because my husband came out and he's talking about dinner. And I'm like, what do you mean dinner?
Busy.
I'm busy. He's like, he's like, well, we decided on making it. And he's like, well, I'll get it. I'll go. And it was something that I usually make. So he's like, well, I'm just checking. So I do this and this. And I was like, well, what do you mean? I'm like, well, are you going to make dinner? He's like, yeah, which is fine, normal. But then I was like, well, what time is it? And it was like almost 6 o'clock. And I was like, oh, okay.
I guess that's appropriate.
I said, I guess I'll have to do the rest next weekend.
Oh, shoot.
Yeah. Yeah. I know. And it was funny because it is funny. Like that is one of my favorite things to do around the house.
Right. Oh, that's the way I feel with my mowing meditation.
Yeah.
Is it's very, you've been here, you're going here, got nothing else to do, nothing else to focus on. And I get so much accomplished mentally that way.
Yeah.
I can do without the heat and the sweat, but.
So, we've had a break. So yesterday it was 83 again. It was like perfect. And it was overcast part of the day. So it was like the sun wasn't beating on me. It would come out for a little while, it would go in. I got some color, but not too much. And it wasn't like, I was like, yeah, if we just wrapped this up in a package and kept it for a while, I'd be very happy with this.
Yeah. We were 63 this morning, which was, I walked out in my usual sleeveless to go walk the dogs. And I went, I'm almost Julie.
Yes. That was the same as what it was here this morning. Yeah. And I said, so yeah, it can get as hot as it wants during the day. If we have this in the morning for walks, fabulous. I'm good. Yeah. So, but that's all. And that's the whole thing is like, okay, when you can be present in anything as menial as pressure wash, power washing, right?
Right.
And, or cleaning or mowing or whatever you're doing that we typically go, meh,
Right.
Weeding. Actually, my daughter's SO, he loves to weed the garden. He said it's very meditative for him. I'm like, okay, well, you can do that every weekend if you so choose.
Right. Absolutely.
But
yes. I think that if you start looking at the things that you do routinely and you get very robotic about it, if you just start looking at it differently and saying, okay, where in this can I allow that passion to infuse? I think you'll be surprised at things that aren't so bad anymore.
Yeah.
That we've judged.
Well, because then you're just there. And it's funny because I've noticed, and I've always liked the power washing thing, but honestly, it was so like, I wanted to, like, I was so looking forward to doing it. Right. And I was like, and I'm like, cause I'm in such a good place. I'm very, and I was like, I just was looking for an excuse to just be present with whatever I was doing. And that's what starts to happen when we start to allow all this to intermingle, to weave together kind of thing.
Right.
So it's brushing your hair, it's taking a shower, it's, mowing the lawn, it's sweeping the floor, it's, singing, dancing, art, whatever you love to do, whether it's building something or whatever that passion is.
Right.
Once you can tap into what that feels like, it's like you can keep that memory and allow it instead of striving for it, and allow it to be in anything, because then it doesn't have to be in just that, which, I think that's where we sort of get stuck a lot, is we stop.
Yeah.
I
agree. I agree. Yeah.
And
the more you feed that, then the more you allow and feed that passion, the more you have to flow to other areas.
Mm-hmm.
And it just becomes that self-reinforcing loop, that feedback loop where, the more I have to spread and flow and give, the more I have to spread and flow and give. And I mean, it's just, and
it's easy and productive in a way that you just can't even, we can't even put a structure around that. We can't even put a structure about how it looks, because, it's like when we were having this conversation last week, and it was like, well, there's something that just has brought up a lot of passion with my husband and me, and it's just naturally bubbling shit up to the surface that I didn't even know was there, that would like prevent me from allowing that to just be there. Mm-hmm. And so, I went through a pretty rocky couple of weeks of just wacky, like observing myself going, where is this coming from? Oh, look, took care of that. Oh, well, now where'd this come from? And then it was like, well, but look at how much it cleared out. And I didn't even think about what to clear out. It just sort of came up, pushed
Right.
itself out, made me look at it, made me, resolve it within myself and then let it go. It was so easy, relatively.
Well, and take all this that we've been talking about and insert it in the chaos that the world appears to be right now. And if everybody had that same focus, the chaos just would go away.
Right. And it might get a little more chaotic for a little while because that's where things start to fall apart.
Right. Right. But you're focused on that passion. So you almost don't even notice that it's falling apart.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so it's different, and it's not tolerating, it's not battening down the hatches or anything like that. It's just allowing, which, like I said, that voice just keeps on coming to me. Just allow, like, stop trying for anything. Just allow it to be.
Right. Right.
Which is such a different shift of force and power. Right.
Right. Well, it gets into that book, Power versus Force. It's like there's such a difference. If you switch from forcing things to just allowing it, the power of it to carry it, it's effortless.
Yes. Yeah.
Effortless.
Oh, there's the
Right.
honesty.
Right.
Yeah.
And we could use a lot of that effortless now. And even talking about, was that last week we talked about too tired for change?
Yes.
I mean, think about how this plays into that, connecting into that passion, then there's no forcing anything. There's no effort needed to be exerted. There's just focusing your attention on that passion, and that allows the change. That brings about that change.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yes. It makes it, and it's just a completely different experience. So then it becomes natural. And then we start saying things like, well, what am I going to allow into my reality now? Instead of what am I going to bring in? Right.
Right. Right. Right. Right.
And then you don't have to categorize anymore because it's what you allow of, okay, well, this fits because it fits my passion, or this comes in this way so that I can allow it to infuse, be infused. And oh, look at how that changes everything.
Really does. Really does.
There we go. We just
know.
fixed all the world problems.
That's right. That's right. The world's a better place because of our passion.
And, it's funny because you and I talk about this. We've been talking about this, and we've been talking about the Adventures in Wonderland program and our courses and stuff. And it's like, this is keeping both of us going because this allows us to really be like expressing the stuff that we're passionate about too. Right.
Yes.
Yeah. And it's easy to us because of that,
It is. It absolutely is. Yeah.
And so, I think about how that, so there's that, and then there's the stuff with my husband, and it starts to then everything just starts to bleed in. And then it's like,
right.
Okay. And so many things are just starting to happen. It's almost breathless. Like, yeah, this, and this, and the ego just starts to go, and it's like, no, we're just allowing it to be easy, and it flows together. And all I am required to do is hold this space of, what was that?
I agreed. I said, exactly right.
Hold the space in this passion of, and bliss, and just saying I'm committed to that within myself. I'm committed to allowing that within me. Right.
Right.
And what does that come from? Here we go with the shameless self-log, because we come back to that program every time because it is so worthwhile. But it's all of those elements that we've put into this core program, which is worthiness, worthiness that I'm allowed to, and I'm divine, and that I'm worthy to have that passion, and that I trust that everything will flow from that. Right.
Right.
And that guidance will lead the way.
And that gets in the second course of trust and allow.
Yes. And then you get into the guidance part of like allowing guidance to lead the way.
Right.
And as to what's going to really feed it. Right. And really bring it out. And then, the forgiveness, which I still have tons of stuff that comes up and it's like, oh, yep, needs a little forgiveness there. Anything, we have judgment about,
Yep.
that's something to apologize and forgive. And then self-responsibility, which is what we're doing, which we launched this month.
Right. Which is
Is
incredible.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Like in such a different way than the others too. It's like, it's claiming ourselves, like claiming
Well,
our,
and I believe that that's what helped me identify my passion, was realizing that I'm responsible for everything that I've created in my reality. And so if I'm stepping up to be that responsible for owning that, then I'd like to own the things that bring me passion
right.
and feed my passion. And I mean, it just was a perfect step through it. It really was.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. And so yeah, so empowering, obviously.
Right.
Self-responsibility. And then in October, we launched the shadow, which both of us are like giddy little kids about. Like,
I know.
it's going to be so fun. It's so powerful. We've already got the whole thing outlined, and it's just
Ready to
amazing.
go. Yeah.
And then the final one then brings it all together in self-love, which is, this is how we get to, why don't we exist in our passion? Because we don't believe in all of those things within ourselves, right?
Exactly. Yep.
And when we get to that place, I mean, now it's becoming clearer because, and it's funny, we're the ones creating it and we're just guided to do it. Right.
Yes.
And the courses have pretty much created themselves.
They have. They absolutely have, from the beginning.
And they've been just as worthwhile to both you and I.
Oh, clearly.
And to create them and have others take it, and we've heard how helpful it has been for many who've taken it. So the thing is, it's all, and all it came from is, what do you and I love to talk about? Like, what are the things that really we feel are important about these things that we talk about? And this, every Monday morning, we've been doing this for years now, like, just because we love to do this.
Yep. Yeah.
And then it starts to just bleed over and bleed over. And now what we have, like, this core program that we've been launching this year, and we have like so much more coming next year that it's almost like we have to hold it back, because we're like,
let's get
some of this.
Right.
And it's just overflowing, and everything is, oh my God, that would be great. Oh my God, that would be great. Oh my gosh, that would be great. Because it's just all now from this core of that passion of, look at how it all fits together perfectly. Right. And this isn't
right.
And this isn't to give the self plug, to the shameless self plug, but in a way it is, but it's not. It's just to say, well, this is just a perfect example for us.
Right.
On accepting
it's how we've put into motion what we're talking about.
Because I just think about how my life has changed this year since we started creating this program.
Right. It's been incredible. It's just happened so rapidly. It's like a blur.
Yeah. And it's like going back to like what you're talking, when we were talking and you said, well, look at this. And, this is passion, like this is from passion, and look at how much cleared out on its own. And it's like, but that was a little microcosm. I'm just saying, but look at how much from the passion we put into this, how much is
right.
in both of our lives. And it's just changed just so much this year. Yeah. Right. Which I hadn't seen until just this very moment when we were talking about it. So pretty incredible. So that's the whole thing. And it's like, well, how do you do that? It's just allowing. That's the first step.
Right.
Knowing you're worthy, knowing you can trust it, knowing you have the guidance to lead the way, like that. That's why all these things that we're talking about with the courses. But I mean, essentially it's how we get there. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't tell you how much unprogramming, deprogramming I've been going through over going on 11 years that I've been doing this professionally, right? The deprogramming from everything else in my life and that I believed and everything else is like, stop doing this. Like, and I look at how perfectly it's come to this, because it was like, okay, so you did this way and it was, okay. But now if you peel this part and you leave this, oh, well, this is great. And then you get to a certain point, okay, well, now peel this part away. And it's like, well, and then it's just sort of accelerated, right?
Yep.
To, yeah, stop. Just do it from your heart. Do it from your passion. Do what you do, everything you do that way.
Right.
And it sort of created a way to do it, which is pretty freaking awesome.
I agree.
But
I agree.
the first step is like so many think I'm stuck. I can't get past this. Oh, but what about this? What about that? Yes. Are there things? Yes. As like you said, is there a lot of chaos in the world? There is a ton of chaos in the world. And we are pushing ourselves collectively to hit every polarity of judgment that we have left.
Right. Right.
Which is why it feels icky and gross and blah on many days.
Really does.
But if you just keep on, it's funny because I honestly disregard a lot of what's going on in the world, because all I'm guided right now is take this day and infuse it with this and be here and do this and keep, just keep your focus in that presence. I mean, I didn't even know about the hurricane last week until somebody had said something about having somebody in New Orleans. And I was like, what? What is going on in New Orleans?
Right.
Or Louisiana. But, and it's not, and people will judge that and say, oh, well, that's just putting yourself in a rabbit hole. And it's like, but the thing is, we distract ourselves with the energy of all of the drama that we create around stuff.
Mm-hmm.
What if all those people, instead of listening to the news, listening to their neighbors, listening to the authorities, listened to their guidance and trusted their guidance?
Right.
And their guidance was stay or go. And if they died, then maybe it was time for them to go and they were done. And, and I'm not saying that with any, lightheartedness, but it just is what it is. And it's like, or you're guided to go someplace else, or you just happened to had a trip that was someplace else when this all came in and
worked perfectly.
Yeah. So it's a different way of existing altogether. So, that's the key. And maybe that's what we do for our clearing this week, which is holding ourselves at the vibration where we allow that passion to come through. Right.
I like that. Yeah.
And when we allow and then when we allow it to come through, we also hold the presence and the space to allow it to infuse everything. And to know how to do that, what that feels like, what that looks like, and to trust and let go, to allow it to create itself for us.
Oh, I can, yeah. Yeah.
I mean, that sounds simple. That's a lot though.
It is a lot, but I can see that starting to unfold. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So all of that in a nice, tidy little bow.
Right.
So as always, let's close our eyes, take a deep breath. As we open our hearts, allow ourselves to step out of separation back into oneness and wholeness. And we hold ourselves at the vibration where that is our truth. That is from where we create, exist, and experience. All right. Oh, that was really nice.
Wow, that felt like a lot.
It was a lot because it was a very chattery, actually surprisingly chattery in the beginning from the collective of blah, 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 but there was like all these buts and I don't even remember where I went. I went out there, came back, went out there, came back. And then at the last part, it was like I was being shown all these like compartments, right? And individually and collectively. And it was like we're trying to make a meal, right? And we're trying to cook every piece individually instead of allowing it to be cooked together in the way that's going to optimize it. And I was like, oh, look at that. Like that's so clear of an analogy, right?
Right.
So I was like, oh yeah, so let's just cook it all together, like pull out all those partitions. It was nice. And then it calmed down. It was like,
Yeah.
yeah.
I personally saw this huge glut of just like this black tarry, bleh, and I started getting really hot. I was like, okay, so that just needs to go. Whatever all that is needs to go. And I was like, okay, well, I'll deal with that later. And I was like, no, that's what we're here to do. And I just saw it burning away, and it was just like felt amazing once it was gone. So whatever that was.
Riddance.
Right. Good riddance.
That was probably all the stuff in the beginning that I was like hearing this chattery. Yeah. Nice. All right. Well, this is one to really put our focus on because we'll get this licked and everything is easy peasy lemon squeezy,
Right.
So all right, everyone, thank you for joining us. Yes. We will so next week we're not going to be on the air at all.
Not live.
Not live. Right. That's right. You can still take our courses or you can watch any of these that you've missed. But we'll be back live on the following Monday, which is the 20th.
20th.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah. So we're just taking a week off, a little bit of a September break for us. And we'll see you back soon. So in 2 weeks. So have a great one. We'll see you next time. This is 2 weeks worth of awesome passion to infuse into our lives in the meantime. Right.
Lots to work. Lots to look at.
That's right. So have a great one. We'll see you next time. This is Angela Coulter and
Sarah Sieg Avignoni
signing off on this week's not living the shift, Ascended World. Let me get that one right. They're all the same. They're all just blending together now. Have a good one, everyone.
Bye-bye.